My name is Rebecca, this is Making LARP, and today I want to talk to you about Moot 1 2015. I will say that I had a fantastic time at Moot 1 this year. Even though I'm still struggling to get to grips with my character, my place in the world and everything, because it's my first mainline event playing the damsel, I really enjoyed myself. And I'm just going to kind of overview of the various things that happened. Now, because of the way that we got our lift and we got to the event, we end up timing in about 2 hours after time in. So, game started at 5, we were in character by 7, but you know, by the time we got there, set up a tent, went and picked up some food and all that kind of stuff. Missed a little bit, and that little bit was really important for the Lions faction because our queen died. I never really got the full details in character, but basically a bunch of unliving turned up and dragged her away and took her to Alcafar, where she instantly turned into an unliving. And because the Lions faction spent about 5 minutes going, let's do it right, we can transport her back, or we'll all go there, something, and they had to be talked down from this because this would have got everybody killed. Once the panic and the sense kicked in, unfortunately a little bit later, the queen turned back up as an unliving, so she had to be shivved up and was laid to rest properly and went to her proper ancestor and all that sort of good things. It's a weird one for me because my previous character hated the queen. She thought she was terrible at her job and was a terrible person and was very, very frustrated by constantly feeling like she was getting hacky looks and being thought of by the queen / members of the council as a piece of shit on a shoe, basically. Now, I know Helen, that plays the queen, has been known to be a really lovely person. I don't know very well, but you know, I'm giving her the benefit of doubt that it is all just role play and it, you know, wasn't anything meant by it. But the company had got very frustrated with the Lions faction head-ups, especially the queen, towards the end of last year. There's just been a series of unfortunate events and just a general feeling of, wow, they really don't like us, and you know, they're way too stuck up and all that kind of stuff. So for the company it was very weird. It was actually Hadari, who's the faction high rich list and has been the faction high mage, who went off and was going to do the right to rescue Queen because everyone was telling him to. Even though he didn't think it was a particularly great idea, he got in a bit of a panic because that's the way the character works. And so he got the backlash of stopping her right halfway through and dealt with the pain, and you know, he's had a lot stronger relationship with the character because they're part of the same sort of ancestor worshipping group and went off and did things together. So you had that kind of range of reactions. There were people in our group at least who were practically celebrating. I was just generally being dry and sarcastic about it all because, as I say, queens, kings, come and go, you just kind of call yourself one, didn't really know her, wasn't particularly bothered, and trying to rein in my own snark from my previous character who had real opinions and was practically celebrating. And you know, there were a few times where we kind of said some dodgy comments in the privacy of our own tent, but maybe not necessarily having screened all the guests for their stance on things. So it was a bit of a weird one to come into. So you had that huge range of people grieving and people panicking over what's going to happen and who's going to be in charge, and it was a great sort of kickstart event. And obviously with being an NPC death, it was pre-planned, and from what I've seen, Helen seems to be enjoying her new character. There is kind of a system in place where you're not supposed to be in an NPC role for more than about 4 years. It does get adjusted every now and again. I know the previous king, who we all loved, King Hengist, stayed in the role for much longer than that. So it does generally depend on what the faction needs. But it was a pre-planned death. I assumed some level of, yeah, let's kick this off with a bang, because we were hosting the event in character. The faction was actually hosting the event, which meant we got the best location on the site, and I didn't have to deal with dodgy toilets at all, because I mostly used the ones that are hidden behind the guild tents, which were fine all weekend and never once wanted to vomit. That's a fantastic change. Don't know whether it's because we had those set of toilets to use or whether it's, LT actually upping the game, but, it's always a net positive when things like that happen. So Monday was a bit of a subdued one. There were a few more kind of rolling attacks on the camp, and the guilds get kind of attacked fairly regularly just because they're a nice central location to get people. I mooched about a bit. I had some OC issues with getting a weapon to deal with, which is not really fair to the people involved to go into because it's all been resolved now. But I got my shiny new staff and generally wandered around bimbling the traders, and I went to the Alchemist Guild and got signed up and all that kind of fun stuff. One of the big things I learned on Monday night was there'd been a massive change to the way alchemy was being run and how some of the specifics worked. So now you need a certain skill, which already existed, but how it works changed, called Create Reagent. If you want to create certain potions and poisons, you need to have a reagent for them. So you either need a IC voucher from someone that can create reagent and who's created one for you to use, or you need to be able to create one yourself. And you can only create one reagent per event unless you've got a skill that allows you to create more than one. And a bunch of potions and poisons now require a reagent. So if you can only create one reagent and you have both create potion, create poison one, which hopefully I will do by the end of next event, you will have to choose which things you are making based on what you need the reagent for most, what will make you the most money or whatever. I actually was making a potion 2 spec for the faction because we're supposed to basically donate one thing that you can make, if you can make something, to the faction each year, and I thought, well, I'll get it out of the way and kind of learn the system that way. But unfortunately the potion that they asked for required a reagent, so it was a bit of a shock when I sat down to make it. They went, no you can't, rules have changed. Did get the training over the weekend and got it all sorted out, but that was kind of a big shock to a lot of people. But, we were given lots of training vouchers to help people adjust, because obviously for a lot of people, things they weren't able to make before, suddenly they couldn't make anymore, which obviously would have upset a lot of people. The guild itself is a very small guild physically. I think the most people I saw down there was about 15 crammed into a room at a time. Generally, if it was any more than that, it had to be spaced out and use a bigger space. I'm sure there's quite a lot of people that are members of the guild to make stuff but don't get involved too much, but because our camp was right by them, I did try and get down a few times, and one of the she's not officially a company member, but she used to be as a previous character, has really gone into a guild bunny, so I tried to get down and see her a few times. They also had the Flabbies contest over the event. They opened it to everybody at the GEF, but I'm not entirely sure what the rules were for this one. But it was a much smaller contest, maybe about 10 potions, and it's this iconic, item. It's a magical cauldron, and it pulls out a bunch of really random potions and potentially poisons. I have seen people be poisoned by it before, but not this event. Callio, which is the character I mentioned, was acting as secretary and writing notes of what the effects everyone got as they got pulled out. You drink the potion, you don't know what it is, it's never been seen before. So even if you've got the skills to check, you wouldn't know what it's going to do. So you drink it and hope for the best. There's been people being awakened before, there's been people nasty kiss and stuff. We actually had a previous company member in the potion game set off chain petrifications. Petrification is basically if you don't get sorted out within 10 minutes, then you turn to stone. And what her effect was anyone that tried to cure the petrification in the first 5 minutes got petrified. So there was quite a few people who got hit with that, trying to fix her, and then it was able to get sorted out. But there was a moment of panic there. So that's quite a scary thing that's happened before. And there's all sorts of weird random effects can get on. People had, I've heard before of people having spell effects reversed, so the effect of one spell on them does a different spell, and that spell does the original spell if cast on them, and all sorts of random stuff. Sometimes it lasts for a day, sometimes it lasts for an event, sometimes it's permanent, depends what you get. So that was quite fun to watch, and I'm definitely planning on having a go at drinking a potion myself at the Geth. Other than alchemy stuff, most of what I did was bimble around with the company and the faction and kind of do the stuff they had planned. I spent a lot of time in the company tent. Because the Queen had died, we had to have a new council, you know, all had to be ratified by the crowns, and a new king was taking over. King Caleb, he's going to be awesome. You just ply him with enough gin and moonshine and whatever else, and he just gets on with it. And, you know, we've always really liked Caleb, he's awesome. So we're quite pleased that he decided to step up. So, you know, council's dissolved, I do need advisors, whatever. We need to work out what the new council's going to be. So a lot of interesting discussions, and Aria, one of the other members of our group, was put in the position where she's going to be head of the council and doing all the kind of organising of it all. So she had that moment of panic, and unfortunately one of the nights we were having sing-songs and she got stuck in a council meeting for 2 hours. So that was kind of sucks for her. I actually had way more like social evenings of drinking and stuff. Unfortunately during the Faction Monster slot, can't say I was like raring to go, but just before everyone went down, one of the other company members came back from the Hobbit meeting and he was very, very drunk. And other people needed to go to stuff that was during the Faction Monster slot. So I basically went, look, we'll take him because he can't fight, and we will go to that faction, you know, meet up with you there, we'll, you know, we'll hang out there, we've got some strong links with the unicorns, we'll hang out for a bit, and then we can walk you back, because it'll be quite dark and we don't want you walking home on your own, because it was Arya was going to a dwarf meeting, because she's busy. Myself, Al, who's playing the Hobbit, and Emma, my wife, who plays a paladin of Cadris Cornus, which is a unicorn ancestor, so she has really strong links with the unicorns. We all went over to the unicorn faction, so of course our faction came and rolled us as monsters. Well, they didn't roll us, no one died. I just spent a lot of time waking people up with physician, because that was the entire limit of my healing abilities. Are you bleeding? No. Wake you up. You can lay there for 10 minutes. Ritual piece pick you up. Are you bleeding? Yes. I can patch that up with bandages. Do you have any bandages? Because I don't. So that's the limit of my healing abilities. It makes a real change, because previously I would have gone boomf, heal location, boomf, heal location, boomf, heal this effect, and now I don't have that ability anymore. It's very interesting seeing how much not having any power makes a difference. It makes things a lot simpler, but definitely a lot easier. We got everyone home safely and had some more drinks in the company tent and just had a chilled night. On the Saturday, there was a bunch of rituals that needed doing. I was in one that was to create some tabards that make people better at doing stuff. And it was quite fun because it was a game show themed ritual and it was really enjoyable to be in. However, we had a minor incident that nearly killed us all. You see, in a ritual you are aiming to hit 12 minutes. Less than 10 you risk some bad things happening. More than 17 you're probably going to die. So, when you have someone with a sand timer outside, it's really important that someone times how long the timer is. Because when you think it's a 10-minute timer and it's actually 15, it makes a huge difference to the survivability of everyone in the circle. Yeah, so whilst the ritual was great and had a great result, the ritualist did get a telling off from the watchers that, yeah, you were like less than a minute from everyone dying because you were 16 minutes. So that was fun to find out after the fact. And so a lot more alliance was held on the rest of the weekend of using what is called a natural timer. As I mentioned, the ritual piece picks you up in 10 minutes. If you have been woken up from debilitated, it picks you up in 11, because it's 1 minute of role play to wake them up, 10 minutes for them to feel better. So we had myself and various other people over the weekend use as natural timers for the rest of the faction's rituals, because that means someone can actually sit with a watch, and as long as the watchers can't see you checking a out of character timing device, then you're fine, because you're going by the actual mechanical effects of the system. So that was fun. There were a lot of cool rituals went on. We also had a lot of ancestor bothering, which you'd think I'd be able to escape it by dying. We had a representative of Humact, who was one of the Lion's ancestors of doing things the right way even when it's the hard way, generally being honourable about stuff. Turned up and went, "You did honourable things, you went to the plane of unlife and planted a flag, and you drained a bunch of unliving energy and turned it to the plane of death so it can return to the cycle, and you're the only ones working on things, and you're great, aren't the Lion's great honour," and said, "Here, have a ritual slot." So, last minute panic ritualing. With Humact was a representative of the race called the Bastellus, who basically do what we did, but on a much smaller scale, or longer term, whatever. Basically, they take patterns and whatever else from the planes of unlife that can be returned to the cycle of death, and slowly kind of try and restore the balance. Construct, elemental, ancestral, whatever thing, and that's basically their job. And one of them came and said, "Hey, you guys, it's probably a real nice idea if you took Drakos, one of the two ancestral unliving wibbly things, and turned him back into an ancestor of whatever his original purpose was. And you can probably use the Archon of Spirit to do that. That'd be nice. That's probably what you should do for your ritual." And instead we went, "That sounds great. However, we kind of do the caution thing. So we are going to use these wibbly items that we have and contact the Archon of Spirit," or as someone who knew more about the sort of thing said, one of the Archons of Spirit, there are 8, and say, "Is this a thing that will work? Because we don't want to blow up the egg. Will it work?" And he went, "Yeah, but you'd need some sort of conduit to Drakos, some sort of physical link with him," which the faction found taken to be a Drakos follower, which might be harder to acquire, as Drakos kind of whole deal is, living, destroy everything, blissful oblivion. And some of his followers are all up for that, some of them apparently a bit more sane. And like, yeah, that's a bit much, dude. Stop with the roaring. That's kind of a plan. Really helps that just before we were about to do our ritual was when ancestors turned up and bothered everybody. Ancestors from each of the factions. We had Humact again, and a whole bunch of different ones, one for every faction, turned up and made a big speech and said, "Oi, people, fix the plane of unlife thing. It's starting to affect us, and if it affects us, then the whole world's going to end. And if you don't do it by the gathering, everything dies." Whether any other factions will actually help us, or any more than we're going to help us already, is a different matter. As I mentioned, Emma does the whole Cadras Corners thing. Really helped that the unicorn ancestor that turned up was Narduk, who is the dark, unliving opposite of Cadras Corners in the Fighting Brothers kind of way. And he went, "Oi, you planted a flag on my lands." Or more accurately, he went, "Oi, they planted a flag on my lands. It had Prince Bishop's colours on it. I want 10 lines patterns, preferably Prince Bishop ones. Bring them to me." And so we got a warning from a nice unicorn like, "Hey, so Narduk wants this, and we're probably going to get in trouble if we don't do it. Have you got any prisoners you're going to kill already and some spare tabards?" And we went, "Yeah, we don't deal with unliving. Not going to do it. Not going to just hand people over to an unliving to be unliving forever. I mean, we're only going to kill them." So we were expecting daggers in the dark, which didn't come yet. But that, of course, put Emma on the list of stay in camp. No, Isabel, stay in camp. Don't go out on your own. They'll probably be after you. Don't go to the unicorn's camp. So yes, many ancestors, much bothering, something groves, something demon dust, something. Everyone will lose access to incantation if people don't sort out demon dust and do acts of faith in the grove or the encounter shrine. I warned them all about this in my last character. People said it was a great big thing that they should deal with. Sunday was the second set of rituals I told you about. There was some fun stuff going on. And on the evening we had sing-along in the company tent. It was amazing. The Bards Guild showed up when they were doing their tour. We drank, we sang, We drank and sang some more. We did a very drunken ride to more beer whilst we were drinking out the skull. That is Shackrock's head, and passing it around and doing camaraderie and stuff. And that caused everyone to have either a confused or a sleep, depending on whether they'd put power in. And I basically went, "Hey!" and then after that went to bed. But got to roleplay being extra drunk, because confused, blessing of more beer. And so generally we just had a fantastic time. Monday is where all the big drama fight kicked off. Yeah, so we were hosting the event, and we were hosting at one of our islands, the island of Assurance. We had previously had all these issues with Tattalus. I mentioned in my winter parley video that people killed him, so his children turned up. Don't think they're actual children, they were lower demonic creatures. You know, if they thought him as their dad, they thought him as his dad. And they were like, rah, 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 we're taking our arms back, we're bringing him back. This guy's got a link to him. You know, we're going to take him, we're going to take his items, and we're going to bring him back, and rah. And so our kind of big plot final battle for the weekend was basically getting those items, putting them in a specific location, doing a right around them, trying not to die. So I joined the right team because I don't really do fighting, and it mostly involved me getting hit and killed repeatedly. Well, not killed, but there were a couple of times I was hit with the fact that it was going to kill me. I got hit with decay and had a real moment of panic, because that's what killed my previous character. Luckily I got patched up very, very quickly. Got hit with flames, got hit with normals. I even had a moment where one of the big bads discerned race on me, and they hit me with Fabane. So it's basically artifact damage to me. And so I had quite a few moments, especially when they knocked a bunch of us out and dragged us out and were going to start wasting people. But we succeeded in the end, and everything's all hunky-dory. It was really fun. I actually got to say, I would love it if just like every main line had some variation of Right and Fight. You know, it's probably the second best main battle thing that I've ever been to. So having the Right and Fight sort of system, something where I can do what I enjoy and other people can do what they enjoy, we all kind of do it together, is kind of the ideal for me, and I really liked that as a setup. There were a few other bits and pieces and memorable quotes. Our lovely, lovely friends Lenny and Leo have been turned into faction iconics. They count as even better contributors than they did before, and people don't have to now keep trying to reforge them, because there was some major issues with that. There was a whole plot line with bugs that's going on from one of the other islands, and just lots of weird stuff. But as I said, I really enjoyed the event. Unfortunately, there were a couple of out-character injuries of my friends. One got injured during setup before the event even started, another one dislocated a knee. Other than things like that, and a few other minor quibbles, it's one of the best events I've ever been to. And now I'm so psyched for the GEF, which is just over a week away. And hopefully I'll have a video for that by the end of the month, rather than several weeks after. So I hope you've enjoyed my video. Please do find me online or on a field, and see you next time.